Hi everyone, in this lecture we are going to talk about CSS borders. CSS borders are the next component of the box model. We have already talked about CSS, the content, the padding. Now we are going to talk about CSS borders. Now, first we need to have a little bit of content for HTML, a little bit of HTML elements so we can apply borders on them. I'm going to create an element which is called the main element. This is a semantic element, and this is used to contain different sections of a website. Within the main, I'm going to create a section element, and main is, of course, a container element. Section is also a container element. And within there, I'm going to create the ultimate HTML-CSS guide. There we go. And I'm going to provide a paragraph as well. Let's save that. There we go. So here is our content. So now let's talk about CSS borders. Now, CSS borders, you know what? I actually do not need this main. We are going to need it. We are not going to need it in this lecture. We're going to need it in our next lecture. So let's just get rid of that. Now, I've already linked our HTML with our CSS. Now, what we are going to do is, let's pop this up as well. Let's take a look at our CSS box model. Let's grab these section. Okay, let's select this HTML. Where is the section? How can we select it? Let's just... Okay, come on, buddy. There we go. Within the body, we are going to have this section element. There we go. So we have selected our section element. Now, I'm going to grab the section element with the element selector. I'm going to give it a background color, light, let's see, light cyan. Let's save that. Okay. Let's save that. Okay, that's not a good color. Just get rid of that. Let's say light slate gray. I think that's a better color. There we go. I'm going to change the color of the text to white just to make it contrast a little bit better. Now, because the text is very shifted close to the edges of the section, the container section, we are going to provide a padding for the container section that is going to provide some space between the text or the child of the section and the edge of the parent or the section. So I'm going to say 15 pixels. So you can see that this child, this H1, which is a child of this section, has some space. There is some distance between this child and the edge of its container or its parent. Now, there we go. So you can see we have 15 pixels all around. Now, first off, what we are going to do is we are going to talk about border style. So border property is a little bit different than the padding property that we have talked about. Border property has 3 values. So you're going to have the style. What style, what kind of border do you want? Do you want dashed, dotted, double, groove, whatever? So I'm going to say dashed. What is the thickness of that border? How thick do you want that border to be? Which is border width. I'm going to set it to 1 pixel. And then what color you want the border to be? I'm going to set it to black just to make sure it is visible. Let's just increase it to 5 pixels so we can see that. There we go. So this is a border. This is the border. And keep in mind that the border is actually overlapping on the padding of the section. The reason for that is that the border is actually considered as a part of the content of the section itself. That's why it is within this. Now, margin is going to be different. Margin is the outside distance. We are going to talk about that in our next lecture. Now, it is very difficult to write all these 3 properties and then apply all borders. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment those out. There is actually a shorthand for borders as well. So you're just going to write border. Now, as opposed to padding, the order doesn't really matter. So you could provide the border style first, then width, then color, or you could provide the color first, then width, then style. Doesn't really matter. You're going to go both ways. So I'm going to say I want it to be like 3 pixels, and I want the style to be solid. and I want the color to be light green. Let's save that. There we go. So I think it's a little bit not that visible. Let's just make it 5 pixels. There we go. So you can see that we have that border, and border is 5 pixels all across this box. I'm going to give you one more border just to make sure you understand that the order doesn't really matter. So you could provide the color first. I'm going to say tomato, and then I'm going to provide it with how many pixels? Let's say 10 pixels. So this is the border. This is how the border is going to look like. Now, what if you want to provide borders individually on different sites? For example, you just want to provide border top or border right or border bottom or left. You could do that as well. And the property name is going to be the side that you want to apply it on. So if you want to apply the border only on top, you're going to write border top. Very simple. The rest of the values are going to be the same. So you need 3 kind of values: some sort of dimension for the border, some sort of style for the border, and some sort of color for that border. Let's say you want it to be 2 pixels, black and solid. If you do that, the border will only apply on top. You could do that for the rest of them as well. So I'm just going to comment that one out. You could say, I want this border on the right, and it is going to be applied on the right as well. Just get rid of these 2. So let me just get rid of this one as well. So now the border is applied on the right. You could just apply it on the bottom. So for that, you just need to change the property name. And now the border is applied on the bottom. In case you're wondering how I'm copy pasting these, I think I've told you already. Hold Shift, press Alt, and then the down arrow. It is going to copy that line. The same goes for CSS as well. You can do that in CSS as well. And let's put that on the left. There we go. Now the border is on the left. With this, our lecture comes to an end. See you in the next one.